Hello out there and welcome to Public Conscience. You are on to the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society organization working to promote good governance, participation and accountability in Nigeria. I am Adaobi Obiabumo with my colleague Esther Bassi.
A warm welcome to the program wherever you're listening to us.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of investigative corruption stories by our partner media organizations and by alerting citizens and the government to their democratic actions against it. We equally promote integrity by amplifying rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals in the course of their normal activities. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
In today's program, our focus is on the need to mitigate corruption in electoral processes through gender mainstreaming and affirmative action for women in Nigeria.
PRIMOG is collaborating with the Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative, WRAPA, to popularize issues of gender mainstreaming and drum support for the implementation of affirmative action.
Over time in Nigeria, corruption in electoral processes succeeded in obliterating integrity of elections and dampening the minds of citizens to participate. Corruption undermines democracy and good governance by flouting and subverting formal processes, and as a result has led to the failure of citizens to hold leaders accountable. And as Nigerians continue to take stock of the 2023 elections and all that transpired in the process, the outcome has shown a wide gap in gender balance of political leaders.
According to results declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), out of 1,553 female candidates that contested for political offices during the 2023 general elections, only 72 women got elected at federal and state levels. The development underscores the need for something to be done urgently to improve gender mainstreaming and to make strong case for affirmative action. Women are making waves in leadership and political positions in different parts of the world, and Nigeria seems to be losing out of what women can bring on board if they are not intentionally included. For you out there, how much do you think adequate inclusion of women in governance will help in Nigeria's fight against corruption? What do you think was responsible for the inability of more women to be elected into political positions in the 2023 elections? Do you think involvement of more women in governance will reduce corruption in electoral processes in the future? How can we get the next government to implement affirmative action for women as contained in the revised national gender policy? And what would be your advice to the next administration with regards to appointing more women into positions?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. We will give out the numbers to call shortly.
If you just joined us, we are looking at the need to mitigate corruption in electoral processes through gender mainstreaming and affirmative action for women in Nigeria. Nigeria's 6.2% average in women participation in governance remains about the lowest in Africa. And as Nigerians look forward to the formation of a new government, the question on the lips of women is, will the incoming government ensure implementation of the revised national gender policy (NGP)? Are women going to be included more than ever?
Big questions, Esther. But joining us with more perspective on gender mainstreaming and how far it can go in mitigating corruption is Joyce Amadu, CEO, Gender Dynamic Consult. You're welcome to today's program.
Thank you for having me.
I also have in the studio my colleague, the Communications Officer at PRIMOG, Chidozie Ubonaya Oba. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's start off with Joyce Amadu. What would you say is the status of women in leadership and political positions in Nigeria?
Thank you. Well, you have rightly said the issues in the preamble for this program. Well, the elections have come and gone, and looking at so far what has happened during the elections and even after the elections, how many women have emerged, how many women came up as candidates, and how many women who actually won the election. I think the evidence is all out there for us to see, which is not, will I say, is not good enough for us women. Because for me, rather than making progress, I think we have declined. The number of women who have won elections in previous elections are even more than the number of women that won elections this year. So we are not where we should be, and we haven't made much progress. The progress goes up, down, and then it comes back again. So it's a challenge. Because for women to participate effectively in leadership, of course, it starts with their participation in politics. And if women do not emerge as if they do not win as candidates, then what is the opportunity for them to contribute to leadership in Nigeria? So it's a challenge. And we are not where we are, but we'll keep pushing.
We will keep pushing. And you just gave a picture of the political sphere space. What would you say about other sectors? Health, economy, do we have women doing better there? Especially not just as workers or staff, but occupying leadership position in that sector.
Well, in the health and education sector, yes, like you rightly said, we have more women working in those sectors as workers, as teachers, as nurses. But when it comes to decision-making positions, we want to ask, how many women do we have as directors? How many women do we have as assistant directors? How many women do we have as deputy directors? How many women do we have as permanent secretaries and as ministers in those sectors? Because those are the positions where critical decisions are made. For example, like in the nursing profession, 80 to 90% of them are women, providing services at different levels of healthcare delivery. But when it comes to decision making, how many women are on the table when it comes to decision making? If you look at the health sector, you find that most of directors are men. Permanent secretaries usually are hardly women in those key sectors. So when it comes to making decisions that affect women, sometimes usually men that make those decisions. And it's only women themselves that knows what affects them. A man cannot say this is what affects them, because we have our experience. We experience things differently. We experience health differently. We experience education differently. We experience different things differently. So it's only a woman that knows issues that concerns her and how to address it, how to put it at the table. So the question is, how many women do we have at those decision-making positions when it comes to policy formulation, when it comes to budget, when it comes to allocating resources that will address the needs and concerns of women? Is a challenge. So it's not enough to have a lot of women. Yes, it's good. But when it comes to taking decisions, how many women do we have taking those decisions? And these are the challenges.
If a woman can speak more to issues that affect her, what are those factors preventing women from being in those key positions or taking over some of those key positions?
Okay, let's say, for instance, in a particular sector, a number of people are employed. Usually, we don't have gender character like we have in the federal character, where we are appointing, where when you are giving employment, you have to consider the states that people come from. But we don't have the gender representation when it comes. So usually, when an employment is done, you find that the majority of those taken are men. So of course, those people, of course, will rise through the hierarchy. They'll be the one that work and then become directors, become assistant directors, become ministers and permanent secretaries. So when you have that scenario, you find that a lot of women are left behind.
Could education be a factor? Because when you look at the statistics, you find out that you have more women dropping out of school. Early marriage, could it be one of the factors why when it gets to the issue of appointments and positions, you have more men more than women? So it's likely that they would choose a man instead of a woman.
Well, there are a lot of factors to that. Yes, we know that there are a lot of women are more likely to drop out of school because of child marriage, because of cultural issues. So a lot of women drop out of school or are not able to complete school. But even for those that have completed, there are still a lot of challenges or a lot of barriers that militate against women attaining leadership positions as directors in key ministries. In terms of reproductive roles, And in terms of promotion, there are a lot of factors, that contribute to militating against women's ascension to leadership position. So there could be traditional cultural issues too. Like for the reproductive roles of women have to go for maternity, and they have to come back after. So there are a lot of issues that militate against women's promotion to those positions. So there are challenges on the way of a woman. Is a cycle, is a life cycle, right from birth to adolescent to an adult, and even to as a worker. There are some challenges mediated against women. And then, of course, there's usually promotion exams and what have you. So are women usually skilled and equipped to pass through those exams and become directors? So there are a lot of huge challenges, because we've been talking a lot about gender equality. Gender equality really means equal opportunity for everybody. Are women given equal opportunities, even in the sector, to grow, to improve, to be knowledgeable, to have skills, relevant skills? So these are questions that needs to be asked. If women have this, because if they are not attaining, you have a lot of them, and they are not attaining key positions, then you may have to ask questions: what are the equal opportunities available to women and men? Are there equal opportunities available to them? Why are men ascending higher than women? So these are questions that you will ask, and like I said, there are a lot of challenges, a lot of barriers on the way for women attaining key positions.
Okay, thank you very much on your opinion. We still have here with us the communication person at Primog, Chidozie Ogbonaya. Chidozie, you've heard what she had said. What would be your opinion on what she has said?
Brilliant submission from my co-panelists here. Gender mainstreaming or issues about women, their position, how much we've given them position in the society, has been an age-long issue. So we cannot even shy away from it. So, and I totally agree with her that enough opportunity, they don't find themselves at the echelon of leadership. If you go to ministries, agencies, and departments, they are not there so much, and it comes from the roots, because when people are employed into the service, if you are employing 50 men against 10 women, so let's say 25 finally emerge, get to the highest rank to become directors and all that. So you will not have up to 50% of women also rise to the top, because in between some of them will get married, they will be hit by family responsibilities, which will naturally draw them down and all that. So all those issues are the things holding them. A lot of somehow we say our society is patriarchal. So you see, those issues keep them bound, hold them from rising to the top, and that is why intention matters. So we must be intentional in pushing them and making case for the woman to become what she has to be. The terrain is not easy, the turf is strong, the field is not level, so they're not going to play the way the men are playing it. So if we don't make that provision for them, we'll be here. And sadly, the people occupying these positions, when we talk about gender mainstreaming, gender equality and all that, for some people it still doesn't sink. You understand? So maybe I see that as we are not learning the lessons some other countries have learned, and they are doing well with it, because in some other countries they've made room for women to be in governance, and they are adding a lot of value.
So what are we missing? What are we not?
We are missing a lot, because if you look at it very well, we have a country, Croatia, is led by a woman, and the country is doing well, although they are not as populated as we are, but she is governing. This woman from Germany, Angela Merkel, today they idolize Merkel as one of their best leaders of all time. So, and we have women here that have proven to be, exceptional in their handling of governance and leadership. So does it mean we cannot replicate more and get them on board? So it's something that we need to have a national rethink about it, have a national approach to changing what we have on ground, because we are the ones losing for over 60 years. If they open the books and say how much Nigeria has lost to leadership in terms of corruption, nepotism, and all the things that comes with bad leadership, you know that, okay, if we even say let's bring in them more, we may be able to have some of these excesses and some of these ugly sins cut down a bit.
Okay, thank you for that, Chidozie Ogbonnaya. Let's get the perspective of Joyce Amadu on how the low status of women in leadership position and governance is affecting Nigeria.
Thank you. Well, everybody has innate talents and skills and knowledge within them. So when you have this large chunk of people not contributing in any way to national development, the nation is losing. So that is what is happening to Nigeria. Let's take Nigeria as an example. That is the case of Nigeria. They have a lot of women trapped with their talents, with their skills, with all that they have to contribute to national development, and they are not brought on the table to contribute. You know, for instance, if you look at the 2023 elections, about 10% of the candidates, about 10% of 10% of women were candidates. So you can imagine 90% and 10%. Then when the elections held, it dropped to 5%. So you can also, it's only 5% of women at the national level that are on the decision-making table as legislators. You know, so when you want to say you want to promote bills, say to promote gender-responsive education or gender-responsive health or gender-responsive economy, the women are not there to contribute to that, because they even have to have people who understand what gender is all about. People have different perception of what gender is. For some people, when they hear the word gender, what comes to their mind is women. But gender is actually women and men, because even men, there are policies that affect men. You know?
Absolutely.
So we need people on the table who understands this is what gender is all about. Gender affects men and women. It affects boys and girls. You know, it affects different diverse groups. So understanding these issues and bringing them to the table, to the policy decision-making table, it is very, very critical. And I'm not one of those who believe it's only women that should be on the table advocating for women issues. Yes, we welcome the fact that men too should be on the table talking about gender issues, because gender also affects men. You know, so we need critical mass of people who understand what gender is all about, and women are more likely, you know, to understand, because most of the issues in terms of discrimination, marginalization affects women. So you have more women advocating for women's issues. So when they are on the table, of course, they have a lot to bring. They have a lot to contribute to ensuring that we have a gender responsive policy making in Nigeria. So it will go a long way in encouraging a lot of women. So we need both men and women on the table, but we need to have more women too on the table, you know, participating or making decisions and making contributions, and throwing out some of the challenges that women face, because you have to experience a thing before you can you can provide a solution. You know, that's why when women talk about a lot of issues, men see it straight, but we are the ones who experience those issues, and we are the ones that are in a better position to talk about it. For instance, like reproductive health issues. You know, women's reproductive role is different from that of men. You know, so when we're talking of our own reproductive rules, men may not understand. When the men are also talking of their own reproductive rules, so we may not also understand. So we need both on the table. You know, in as much as we have a critical mass of men, we also need critical mass of women, so that these issues can be discussed, and then we'll make progress as a nation.
Okay, so it's a woman that can speak to issues that affect her, and a man would also speak to issues that affect the men. So corruption, I want to bring in corruption into the discussion now. Corruption affects both men and women differently, but statistics out there says that corruption affects women more. Do you think that if more women are brought on board, the issue of corruption would reduce in Nigeria?
Yes, evidence have shown. Research that have been conducted in I think a European country shows that yes, women are more likely not to be corrupt. when compared to men? Because I think this evidence was taken from issue of procurement, and they found out that the more gender balanced representation you have, the less corruption you have in public procurement. So yes, evidence have shown that women are less likely to be corrupt. And when you have women in decision-making positions, issues of corruption, are less likely to occur.
Chidozie Ogbonnaya, corruption and gender. What do you have to say?
They will say, I don't want to cite some examples, but actually we cannot fault the woman so much, or whatever evidence and research on table, we cannot fault it so much, because we've not even given the women in Nigeria so much time to be part of leadership. So, but I believe that the mix-up of gender will actually go a long way, because when we are thinking differently, they say if you empower a woman, you empower the world. So if a man is having, let's say, a criminal tendency, and the woman by his side is having tendency, I want to build this nation because my children are here, they will have to grow. So you see that there will be conflicting ideas. So the good can overcome the bad. You understand? The light will also always overpower darkness in this case. So that is why they coming together, working together, having a mix of men and women work together in every sector will always bring out the best. Look at what private sector is doing. I mean, if you go to private sector, you see that research have also shown that we have less corruption in those areas. So, and if you watch, they are doing better. You have women doing better in private sector more. So
the involvement
it's
of
something
women
we can replicate in the government sector, public sector, to make sure that we have the best.
Okay, thank you so much, Jose, for that. I would quickly listen to the voices of Nigerians on the streets. Don't touch your dial. My team or Primark team were out to interview Nigerians on if more women participation in politics would reduce corruption in Nigeria. Take a listen. Voices against corruption. Let the people speak.
Hello and welcome to Primark's public feedback series on corruption called Voices Against Corruption. And we ask, do you think more women participation in politics would reduce corruption in Nigeria?
Bringing women into politics is the best I think the nation needs at this point in time, because women have less tendency to be corrupt. To some extent, most of our men have failed us. So we need women. Let us test them so that they can, let us see the much they can give.
Having women in leadership or political practices or political leadership generally is not really the reason why corruption will be reduced. There is a very grand cause of corruption in Nigeria. Can I tell you? Political parties.
For women to go into politics, I support it, but it doesn't stop corruption. It just helps to curb it a little because of their nature.
I believe that women are more prudent when it comes to financial management. Women have conscience. So if we have more women in politics, let's just say in governance, it will reduce corruption, I believe so.
More women in politics may not reduce corruption in Nigeria, because the politics of today is a selfish politics. People are using it to enrich themselves and their families. There will be a bit different if women come into politics in Nigeria, if they can give them a chance to participate in the politics. I think there will be different, but not much.
Even if you bring all the women in the world to be the president, the vice president, and they occupy all the positions at all levels in Nigeria, if they are a corrupt set of people, definitely we are not changing anything. So the best thing is we have to look for those with the good mindset, whether they are men or women.
Democracy itself is a government that revolves around the people. It's not gender sensitive. So having more women or men doesn't really matter. I don't think corruption has to do with gender. So if you have more women without a character or personality, I don't think it will reduce it. So what we should be looking out for has to do with people with a character people with a personality, people with the willingness, to work for the people.
I don't really think the gender makes any difference. So whether it's a female or a male, it doesn't make any difference. If the corruption wants to persist, it can still persist. So it doesn't depend on the gender. It depends on the mindset.
Primark's public feedback on corruption in Nigeria is produced with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Divergent views there on if participation of women would help reduce corruption in Nigeria. Joyce, could you respond to that in 1 minute?
Well, divergent views, we said, people have different opinions because we have different socialization process, we have different beliefs, different experiences, so people see things differently. But even the women leaders that we have in other nations that my colleague here mentioned, even the evidence so far have shown that the economies of those countries are improving, because most of them that are held the fort in those countries, the evidence is clear for everybody to see that these women are doing well, leading their nations as prime minister, as presidents, so even the evidence all over the world shows that yes, women, when they are in key positions, corrupt practices are less likely to occur.
Okay, thank you for that. And we want to find out how you would contribute to the conversation. Are you in support of the idea that women would help reduce corruption in Nigeria? And how much do you think adequate inclusion of women in governance will help fight corruption in Nigeria?
Let me come to Chidozie. One of the respondents said that the grand cause for corruption is political party. Do you agree with him? And do you think the political party structure accommodates women? They give them slash prizes when it comes to selling of forms.
The person is not far from the truth, and I agree with him to a large extent. Political parties getting into leadership, like elective position, like we saw that only 10% out of 90 were able to make it to the national leadership and state houses of assembly this time. You go straight and see that it is because getting into that, becoming a candidate is already a difficult task, because you have to go through a lot of process, bribe through a lot of people, and get before you emerge. So that process is already, there's already a glass ceiling for women to break, because they might not have the financial muscle that the man has, and also play dirty, as we used to hear that politics is a dirty game. So is a problem, and even the cut price of saying we will slash price from nomination form and expression of interest form is not enough. It's not enough. If you are slashing price for somebody who has the quality, but you are slashing price for 50 million naira form to 25 million naira form, you might not have done any good to the person, because if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Thank you. Hello, your name and where you are calling us from? Okay, let's hear you, Abdul Malik.
You people are discussing the very vital topic. It is very necessary. If Nigeria can harmonize and do that, it will help us more. Because somebody like Doha Kunyele has written a history. So if you consider the battle she fights, it's hard for any man to handle that. And we have seen many lapses related to the men. Only in Nigeria, we pray for God to help us. I just don't like that concept.
Thank you so much, Abdul Malik, for your contribution. Back to the issue of politics. So many people, especially the women advocates, were almost going to rejoice with the election in terms of Adamawa State election, where we have a female candidate. But unfortunately, that did not play out. The other side of it is that the governor-elect, that's Ahmadu Fintiri, had to drop his male deputy to pick up a female deputy governor. Would you say that we lost, or we are still on track?
Well, I would say we are still on track. That even a woman emerged from a state like Adamawa in the north, not even in the south, for me is a good development. And she gave a good fight, because even right from the primaries, it was very obvious that people in the state really welcomed that development, and they really supported her candidature. If you look at what even happened in the primaries, she contested with big wigs, the likes of Ribadu, and she beat them hands down. You know, so I mean, I think that for me is good news for us women, that women can contest at that level with those the caliber of people she contested and give them a good fight. She also gave a good fight in the general elections. I think the gap between her and the governor, I think it was about 30,000 thereabout. So she gave a good fight, you know. So that is a good development. If we have more women like that coming out, you know, bracing the odds and coming out, and rather than being afraid, or rather than being skeptical, I think that will go a long way in encouraging women, because I believe that a lot of women now, that her participation has encouraged a lot more women, you know. So I believe that will lead to much more participation of women in the 2027 elections. I believe that will encourage more women to come out to contest as governors, even as president, even at the various level of national election. So it's a welcome development, because if it can happen in Adamawa, it can happen in any other state, Adamawa in the north for that matter. So it's a welcome development.
Okay, so what should women in general be doing differently? Because you've seen these hurdles before you. What do you think they should be doing differently to get what they desire when it comes to participation in politics, not just ground level at this time?
Yeah, I think women should just be engaging with the process, because a whole lot of process. What are men doing and they are emerging, and that women are doing and are not emerging? You know, so it's to learn the game, learn the art of politics. You know, right from the grassroots. I mean, engage the people. What programs are you going to implement? Engage the right stakeholders. You know, and it can be done. You know, so it's engaging the process, understanding the game, and then engaging the process.
Thank you. Let me take this call. Hello.
My name is Malik calling back, please.
Okay, let's hear you in 1 minute, Malik.
You understand the major problem that women have. You see that eloquent woman sitting elaborating things there. That is one major problem that women have. She has said now, women themselves don't even believe that I can do. They believe in women. She is good to go, but she has that dream. You understand? We remember during Jonathan when a woman, Sarah, contested, it is only one vote. These are the major problem. Every woman that had that talent to go, they themselves did not detect themselves that they were able to go. Apart from the northern that are trying, somebody like Mama Taraba and the other woman from, where is that? You see, anything from Abuja down to the east, to the west, you did not see them coming up the way those ones are trying. So those that we have that are qualified, like somebody like her that has everything it takes. Educationally, you know, in terms of intelligence, it's good. But if she has that vision, that, you understand?
Are you proposing that my guest should pick up a form?
You understand? No, she is speaking now about the people. What about her? What is she lacking? She's good to go, but if she has that dream on her own.
Right.
So the talented one we have, they did not see themselves qualified for it. So they were advocating, they were expecting some other people to do. That is the major problem our women have.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Abdul Malik. Joyce, do you have intentions to run?
I do.
Okay, Abdul Malik, your question has been answered.
It's actually something I've been nursing, and I'm working on it.
Okay, we'll look forward to
maybe
that.
2027, I'll be an item.
Yes. Good to know.
Thank you.
All right, Chidozie, the caller mentioned during Jonathan's time, I think that a woman was on
Sarah Jibril,
and she got one vote. Yes. Do you think women are supporting women enough?
We cannot just conclude that they are not supporting them or not supporting them or not supporting them enough. Besides, the women need both the support of the two gender. You cannot bank on the support of women only. Like Dr. Adobe mentioned Adamawa scenario. The people that voted Senator Bainani, they are not only women. I saw men standing behind her. And this is what we are supposed to break in Nigeria. The mindset of whoever that is standing there. If the woman has got quality, competence, and all the things you need to have a leader represent you, forget that she's a woman. And that is where other countries, the step that they've taken, that they are ahead of us. Like in Rwanda, they don't see them as women, they see them as these are our leaders and they are able and capable to represent us. So we must not view them from the prism of being a woman, from the prism of this person is tested, trusted, competent. But going back to her comment on where your question on where the woman, what the women should be doing now, I'm telling you, the time is even running ahead against them, ahead of 2027, because they have to start getting into political parties. They have to start organizing themselves, grouping themselves together. You know, the mobilization should start immediately, because there is no time. It's the same political parties, the members of the party, they're the ones that will go for different conventions, both local and national. They're the ones that will make somebody emerge. How can you make somebody emerge as candidate if you're not there? So in the next 4 years, I am not seeing a magic wand when it comes to the situation of women. I'm sorry to say it.
So the women need to start mobilizing
they need
early
to start
enough.
mobilizing now. The time is now. There is no time. Start belonging to political parties. Start following through. You cannot wake up in 1 year and 2 years to go and say you want to be. Then the parties list of this thing must have been drawn. The list of people who will go and vote during convention. So you have to make hay while the sun shines. This thing is not served a la carte. You have to be intentional. You have to run. If you like, grab. If you like,
and hold on to it, like some would suggest. All right, thank you for that. Now let's move to the revised national gender policy, which speaks to 50-50 parity. Last year we saw a situation where the gender bills which talked about 35% affirmative action, but the revised national gender policy took a step further to say 50-50. Do you see a possibility where we would have 50-50 parity? And do you think that legislation would help in ensuring that we get that?
Well, legislation is supposed to help us in getting that. But unfortunately in Nigeria, Nigerian women have made several efforts. Like every year when there's a constitutional review, women come up with bills and we always see those bills being rejected. Like the 5 bills which were also, being rejected. So the 35 to 50% of the gender policy, well, this is good that from 35 they raise it to 50, but the issue is, when I was discussing with somebody about the gender policy, I was even asking, what have we achieved? What have we, when we review the gender policy, what have we achieved? This 35%, how many percent have we even achieved? And now we're raising the bar to 50. So, but I think it's just a way of saying, okay, we've done review and we're raising it to 50. But even the 35%, we have not done well. I'm not even sure if we have even achieved up to 10%. We just talked about the number of women. Now we have only 5% of them at the national assemblies and at the State House of Assembly, which is really, really poor. So even at the 35, we're not even there. But we just keep pushing. It's good to dream. Yes, we're dreaming dreams, and then probably there'll be a miracle. But we just need to keep pushing. We just need to keep engaging with the legislators. Right now that the gender bills have been rejected, when the next assembly comes, we still need to continue engaging the process. We'll learn lessons. What did we do that didn't work well? Or what did we do that worked well? What do we need to do differently? These are questions we need to keep asking so that we keep improving the process. I believe that someday the bills we will present will be assented to by the National Assembly. I have faith in that, because even with the numbers we got, with the number of voting, much more voted compared to previous legislative houses. So we are making progress. I believe as we keep engaging, as we keep educating, as we keep enlightening on the importance of some of these bills, when we tell them, look, this is not only Nigerian women, we are thinking of your daughters, your mothers, your sisters, your wives, so you make it real to them that this is actually affecting even your own family. So I think we need to improve, continue with the engagement, and then improve what did we do that worked, what didn't we do that didn't work, But let's look at the 35%, what have we achieved with regards to that. And why even raising the bar to 50? Well, which for me, I don't have an issue with that, but I think we really need to review that 35%, and then why are we raising it to 50?
Lots of questions there. But then, for the incoming administration, what would you advise, aside from engaging with the process that you talked about? I know that has to do with National Assembly members. What would you advise the incoming president-elect to do in terms of raising the bar and having more women in governance?
Well, I think the president-elect needs to be much more deliberate. But it starts from, because for someone to be much more deliberate, I ask, what does he even, how does he see women participation or women in decision making? Does he see value in it? Like I always talk about President Goodluck Jonathan, like even some of the achievements he made with regards to improving women participation in governance, and even went as far as including gender budgeting, that we saw some key ministries having a specific budget. I think finance and some other key ministries like that, agriculture and some five and then ICT, they had a specific budget for women participation. Involving women in projects, So those are the kind of things that if a leader sees value in it, can bring to the table. So for the incoming president-elect, I don't know how gender sensitive or how gender responsive is. Some of them just come and talk, women, but it's just rhetoric. We need to see practical actions on the table, like that of Goodluck Jonathan. Then that the Minister of Finance introduced gender, because he brought somebody who understands gender mainstreaming and affirmative action, who understands the value. So he brought her and appointed her, and then she introduced that as a Minister of Finance, and we all know the outcomes that intervention has actually generated. So if we have leaders who have that kind of mindset, not just paying lip service, not just rhetoric, but yes, we really want to see women, because we believe that if we bring quality women on the table, they have a lot to offer. They can change the dynamics. So I will start by asking, what is the president-elect's perspective with regards to gender mainstreaming? Is it just lip service? Okay, I just want to see women around me. Okay, I have women leaders. No, but in terms of critical sectors, if you're looking at, there are gender issues in this sector, and it's when you have a woman that she can critically look at these issues and address them. If you look at the extractive sector, the petroleum sector, women participation is very, very minimal. So you can imagine bringing a woman in that sector, and you can imagine the things she will change. But it comes with the president-elect having that understanding. Being deliberate and being intentional about gender mainstreaming to promote gender equality. So that's what I would.
Gender mainstreaming.
Yes.
Okay, Chidozie, May 29th is just by the corner here.
Absolutely.
What is your advice to the incoming administration on ensuring affirmative action law is followed through?
Okay, when you inherit a government, you inherit whatever policy on ground. So national gender policy, the revised national gender policy, is on ground. It was approved by the Federal Executive Council, and this government can look at it and increase, because in this current Buhari administration we had low representation of women, and I believe he should raise the bar. So I'm urging him to, as he take over, to raise the bar and assuage the complaints and issues. The fact that many women were not able to get into leadership position through election, assuage that with appointments. You can copy Jonathan by giving key appointment to some sensitive ministry. Look for competent women. We have women in Nigeria, and he can do it. He can do it, and it will be better for it, and because it will go down to send the right message to that woman out there who feels that because I'm a woman I can't achieve this. But when they see that a woman has been appointed into a high position, it sends the right signal and will be better for it as a nation.
Thank you so much for that perspective. We must be intentional, especially the president-elect, according to my guest, in ensuring that women are included in the next administration. And some of the entry points of gender mainstreaming includes policies. We have the revised national gender policy and programs and projects, people That is the individual here and the enabling mechanism. Esther, we really must go.
Please visit our news website, primognews.org, that is primognews.org, for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, www.primog.org, to get all the information about Primog.
And you can watch our videos on Primog TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We sincerely appreciate our guests. Joyce Amadu, the CEO, Gender Dynamic Consult. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And also my colleague, the he for she, Chidozie Obunaya, the Communications Officer at Primog. Thank you for being a part of today's episode. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. I'm committed to building a more just, verdant and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience, and remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Official Primog. I am Esther Bassi.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificates are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in the birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also, remember that you can give us information or hint about corrupt acts through our phone at 0902-265-6167 or info@primog.org. I am Adaobi Obiabumo. Stay safe.